What a dreary, dreary day. I'll put this here. It's hot. The coronavirus is upon us, and you can't avoid it. It's hard to avoid catching it. It's hard to avoid conversations about it. Everywhere you go, everybody you see, you can't not talk about the coronavirus. So today, I'm going to talk about the coronavirus. One of my favorite quotes ever is by Martin Luther King Jr., and he said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And I love this because I think in part because this is what I learned as a kid through sports. Sports taught me so much. I've been running since I was 6 years old. And running taught me very early that the hardest and the most painful moments are the moments that have the greatest opportunity within them. Because if you're able to push through those hard times, then you're going to separate yourself from other people. Anybody can push hard when they're feeling good and when times are great. And when everybody's feeling good and when times are great and everybody's pushing hard, you don't really have the opportunity to separate yourself. Not many people can still push when they're feeling bad. And if you can find ways to still push yourself when times are not good, that is where you separate yourself from everybody else.
Just got word that John's battling for third. Hey! Hey, this for top 3, baby! For top 3! Yes. Ah! I couldn't tell if he got it or not, I don't know.
So I'm sure you've noticed the setup by now. This video is going to be a little bit different from my usual videos. I never really realized how vital it was for me to get outside for my videos, and now that I can't really do that, it's tough. So I'm gonna try to work with it. Sarah and I have been doing our best to take social distancing seriously. We've been staying inside, playing a lot of board games. Sarah's played video games once now, but that is still progress. I've been eating pretty much the same breakfast every single day for over 2 weeks now, and I thought that I'd be sick of it by now, but the routine is actually kind of nice. We also get out for exercise pretty routinely. I'll go run and Sarah will follow me on her bike. It works out pretty well for both of us. Overall, I've just really been spending a lot more time with Sarah, which is nice. Some people, not a lot, but some people have asked us, like, why are we staying in? Why are we just, closed off to the world right now? And it's not easy by any means, but our reason is this. We know that yes, we'll probably be fine. If we play the numbers game and we decide to continue living our life, going out, hanging out with people, all of those things, and we play the odds, we will probably be okay and we'll probably make it through. However, there is a slim chance that we won't be okay, that the people around us won't be okay, and that they might pay for the decisions that we made. And as tiny as those odds may be, the cost of being wrong is just way too high for us to take that chance. So that's what's kept us inside. I think a big problem of this coronavirus is that there's not much research out there. And yes, we have more research now than we did, say, a month ago, but there's still not much research out there. And in my opinion, this is as much of an infodemic as it is a pandemic. And because information is so small, any new information completely changes the outlook of the virus, and for this reason my views on this virus have changed drastically. So rewind back to March 14th. That was the date, that Saturday was the day that Sarah and I were going to fly out to San Francisco, finally go on our belated honeymoon. It was going to be a great trip. We had so much planned for that trip. Just driving all around California, seeing everything California had to offer. And we were excited about it, and Sarah was especially excited about this. And I remember maybe a week or so before the trip, maybe 3 or 4 days before the trip, my family started to call me, my mom, my dad, my brother, and asked me to reconsider. I eventually did reconsider, and Sarah and I did decide to cancel this flight. But remember, this was before coronavirus had become a big deal. Sports were still going, every store was still open, you could still go out to restaurants. Everything was running business as usual, and so it didn't seem to be a big deal back then. Back then it was just kind of still a meme. The people who were already inside and preparing for this coronavirus, to me, seem to be overreacting. I now realize that overreaction is the only way to stop a pandemic. I think that the cookie cutter leadership role of staying calm, don't overreact, works in most cases.
Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm!
But not in a pandemic. In a pandemic, I think you need to get ahead of it. You need to overreact to be able to stop it. In my mind, that virus just kind of was put in the same category as like Ebola or the swine flu or the West Nile virus that I heard terrible stories about, but at the same time I never thought that it would affect me or the people around me. And in retrospect, the fact that I caught West Nile virus as a child and made it through okay probably didn't help my case to take this coronavirus seriously. West Nile was pretty brutal. I remember telling my family, who was trying to talk me out of this vacation. I would tell them things like, well, the flu has killed more people than the coronavirus, and we don't see people freaking out about the flu. Only older people and or people who have respiratory problems have died from this, and I don't have either of those. I'm gonna be fine. Although I do have mild asthma and I have had bronchitis 3 times. I also told them that I think that the fear of catching coronavirus is worse than actually catching the coronavirus, and that I hope I get it so that I can show that it is not that bad. And hearing myself say these things out loud right now feels terrible because of how fast the information changes. I now know that all of these things were completely wrong, but at the time I had no idea. The mortality rate has been 10 times higher than the flu as of right now, and this is just the beginning stages. Perfectly healthy people who were not old have died from the coronavirus in the United States. And another thing that really hit me was when I saw that in New York, they are putting dead bodies in refrigerated trucks that are used to transport food because the morgue is full. Because they have so many dead bodies, they don't know where to put them. They're putting them in trucks. And you would hear stories like this from other countries, such as Italy. And I would just say that, well, Italy is not the United States. And that was just something that I had in my head. And New York is the United States. It's now happening in the United States. And so now that thought process has to change to either address the issue and take it seriously, or to say, well, New York is not Colorado. And then where does that end? How close does it actually have to get for me to take it seriously? That's the big question. I think that these comparisons between coronavirus and the flu are not really fair because We're comparing the early stages of the coronavirus to a full-fledged flu. And because the coronavirus is so contagious, hospitals today are already becoming overworked. These comparisons are under the assumption that everybody who needs hospitalization can get hospitalization, because up to this point, everybody who has needed it for the most part has gotten it. However, if hospitals eventually go over capacity, then people who do need hospitalization, not everybody's gonna get it. And if certain people who need to be hospitalized, certain people who need medication can't get those resources, then what do the numbers look like? These numbers are despite our efforts to social distance. So we're comparing the early stages of the coronavirus with extra precautions that we're taking to the flu that is fully developed, that we don't really social distance for. Something that I just really regret. Knowing that older people and people with respiratory issues are dying from this should have been enough of a reason for me to stay home. And this kind of introduces a responsibility to me, somebody who is not at risk, or at least not at high risk. It's almost a moral responsibility to avoid catching the virus, because if I catch it, then I am at a higher chance of spreading it to somebody who can't afford to catch it. I remember going to Sam's Club. This was the day before our flight was supposed to take off, but we had already canceled it. Getting some grocery shopping in, and it was just a madhouse there. And this was the day after the NBA had canceled games, so it finally felt real to me that, wow, this is actually happening here now. It was just packed, everybody was in a frenzy, and I saw this old lady driving around in her electric cart. She was terrified, and I don't think that I've seen that look. She was clearly trying to stay away from people. It seemed that she couldn't afford to catch the virus. She was near the canned beans, but she was staying back from all the people, and people were just swarming. I eventually got her attention and just asked her, how many do you need? And she held up 2. So I grabbed 2 packages of beans for her, put it in her shopping cart. She took off with only rice and beans in her cart straight for the checkout because she was terrified of catching this sickness. And that was the moment it clicked in my head. Unknowingly transferring this disease to somebody who can't afford to catch it is something that I would never be able to forgive myself for, especially if it was for being careless, reckless, a mental lapse where I just decided I'm just gonna go out. Not only that, but if I get sick and if I end up needing medicine and or hospitalization, I'm taking those resources from other people who might end up needing it more, and even in that way I'm indirectly affecting people. I will say that I think our biggest obstacle moving forward is pride. It felt terrible when Sarah and I had to cancel our flight to California, and it felt so terrible that I immediately planned a road trip instead, which then got cut short in our, I think, 2nd day out of 6. I just planned that road trip because I just needed something to hold on to, because it feels so bad to say I was wrong. I like people to think that I am an informed person, and I like to think of myself as being an informed person, and so canceling that trip meant that I messed up. As new information came in, I realized more and more that we can't do this trip and that we were wrong. And that was just, it was hard to come to terms to that. Because, as I said before, that this is as much of an infodemic as it is a pandemic. There's such little amount of information that this is what allows pride to be the deciding factor of people. This is what allows opinions to be the primary deciding factor of people. A quick aside, I'm talking about people who can afford to stay in. People who can't afford to miss work. People who can't afford to shut their business down. That is a completely different story, and I am not talking about that. But the point is that we only have a tiny sliver of data. This axis is time. This axis is the amount of people infected, the deaths, etc. So far, we have this. We are trying to speculate what is over on this side. What is going to happen? Some people are speculating that it will continue this way. Some people think it will continue this way. Some people think that it will continue this way. There's endless possibilities nobody knows where this is going to go from just this. The problem is that even if it goes up to here, people can still find ways to look at the data and mold the data so that it fits what they originally thought it was going to be, because there's not enough data. Until we get through this entire curve, wherever it may go, there will not be enough data for people to say where it's going next. And that is my fear, that people will, instead of looking at where we are, speculate on where we're going to go based on what they originally thought it was going to be. You can always find research that supports your current idea and just disregard the rest. I'm not claiming to know the answers. I was wrong. I understand that I was wrong. And I maintain an open mind that I may be wrong again, because I probably will. And so I'm not asking that everybody be right, because that's impossible. What I am asking is that everybody maintain an open mind. Be able and willing to continually change your theory, your hypothesis, as research continually changes as well. And that your decisions, whatever they may be, because everybody's going to have different decisions, that whatever decision you make is governed by research and not by pride, and not by sticking to what you originally believed. And so that's it for today's video. Thanks for those of you who stuck with me through this whole talk. I hope that this is going to be over soon, and if it is not over soon, then we'll just hang out here. Thank you guys for watching. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay sane, and I'll see you in the next video.